Nestled in the suburbs of West London are 320 acres containing one of the most amazing plant collections in the world. The Royal Botanic Gardens, Kew.
It's absolutely amazing how wonderful nature is.
From the historic glass houses
Wow, what a nice view.
to the ever-changing walks and vistas,
This is this tree's children.
we've been given special access to capture a year in the life of this unique place. With 17,000 species of plants to nurture
You were like a kid in a candy store. Oh, look what I've got, look what I've got.
and 2 million visitors to enchant,
The greenhouse is actually quite tall.
the staff are busier than ever,
So we're almost nearing the end of loading the kiln.
creating vibrant public displays
It's addictive. And to work with just so many beautiful flowers.
and doing vital work behind the scenes.
This unit is a big drone. In here is a laser that spins around.
Throughout the months, and whatever the weather,
This is the cycle to have when you're having a bad day with the view of the farmhouse.
the gardens and the people who keep them alive never stay still. This is Kew, a year in bloom. Winter has settled over the Royal Botanic Gardens, Kew. The crowds of high summer are a distant memory, giving the staff more time and space to tackle some much-needed maintenance. Inside the glass houses, the plants still carry on as though it's a warm, tropical day. But outside, only the evergreens still show their colours. And yet, a small white flower has made an appearance, a hint that warmer days are on the way.
Traditionally, snowdrops are associated with Candlemas, so around the 2nd of February. So we're about on time this year. They're so popular because they're sort of known as the harbingers of spring, and they'll be the first ones out.
At first glance, one snowdrop seems much like another. But to the trained eye of botanical horticulturist Fay, they hold a world of subtle variety.
So this is a Galanthus elwesii cultivar that some people may know. It's called Grumpy. And if you look just on the inside, there's a wonderful little grumpy face here. This is always a very popular one, and we get a lot of people coming to see Grumpy. And then we had a member of the public the other day look at Grumpy, see the name, and call her husband back and say that we'd named a cultivar after him.
In fact, Galanthus elwesii is named after Henry John Elwes, who introduced them to Britain in 1874 after a plant expedition to Turkey. Soon, obsessed gardeners everywhere were growing them and trying to outdo each other by creating new varieties, a practice that continues to this day.
I have my species that I like and my cultivars that I like, but there are thousands of cultivars and some of them fetch a very high price. So an individual bulb can be over £1,000 for some of the cultivars, so I wouldn't say I was quite that obsessive.
Snowdrop lovers on a smaller budget can still experience a priceless collection here at the gardens.
We don't actually live up here, we live in Devon. So we're up at Kew, we've seen them down at home, but here, they're just a mass.
Absolutely gorgeous, yeah.
I went for a country walk the other day and I saw them growing in a graveyard and I thought, well, they must have some snowdrops in Kew. I'll go and have a look.
It's hard to imagine a winter without this white carpet spreading across the woodland glades. But in the rock garden, there are some snowdrops that could soon melt away forever.
This is one of our species, Galanthus trijanus. It's IUCN rated as critically endangered, and it's known from a very small distribution in Turkey, actually close to the site of the ruins of Troy, which is hence the name trijanus. So we were really lucky to be able to get a permit to get this bulb and grow it here at Kew. And from that one bulb, we now have this clump plus some secured in the nursery.
The snowdrops are not the only flower to make an appearance at Kew each winter. Every February, some much more colourful blooms can be spotted in the Princess of Wales Conservatory at the annual Orchid Festival. For the first time this year, Supervisor Alberto is running the show.
How's it going? Good? Good. This is my third Orchid Festival, but I've done 2 as a student. And this year I'm supervisor of the Princess of Wales. And so I'm supervising the Orchid Festival as well, which has been a steep learning curve, I must say, yes.
For a month, 100 volunteers have been installing 5,000 orchids in temporary displays. Now the grand opening is 3 days away.
I need a holiday. I do need a holiday now, yes. I'll be happy when it's on, so I can just breathe and take a little step back and appreciate what we've done.
The theme this year celebrates the small but highly biodiverse nation of Costa Rica. Visitors will be taken on a coast-to-coast tour of the Central American country.
This is the first display visitor will see, and then they continue towards the Caribbean coast. But before they get to the Caribbean coast, they'll find some forest animals, some night forest animals. So we have a jaguar, we have a sloth, and we have some white bats. And as we enter the Caribbean coast, we have our first arch decorated with orchids.
Although it's Alberto's first time in charge, he's got some experienced help to meet the deadline. Hank has volunteered here for years, taking time off from his day job as a master florist.
What keeps bringing me back? It's the team efforts here. I mean, it's lovely to be in a tropical glasshouse in the middle of winter and to work with just so many beautiful flowers and colours, and it's addictive. Alberto is doing remarkably well. He's very on top of it. He is very organised, very clean, cleaning up after me, and I'm like, where did I put this? I'm sure I left it here. And then Alberto's already sort of cleaned it up after me. He's good.
He's also put Hank in charge of the show's centrepiece, a flower-filled Caribbean half-sun, which Hank is determined will be the best the festival has ever seen.
I want to start from the top and then work our way in.
Come in, Alberto. Come in to the fold. Working with natural materials, with the plants like this, every single one is different. Some might have 2 flower stems or 1 flower stem, or you can't plan it exactly. But that makes it fun as well, because it might surprise us what we make.
Yeah.
Nice. Guys, I think it's going to be the best one ever.
Yeah.
No, it is!
With time running tight, the last thing anyone needs is a delay for bad weather. But overnight, Storm Eunice hits the UK, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. Early the next morning, Cecily, Tom and the rest of the tree gang start the cleanup.
I think that there's a lot of tree damage that could have not been avoided at all. Things are just completely snapped out or pushed over, like just literally unearthed from the ground.
The critical task is to ensure that none of the fallen trees pose a danger to the public, and it must be done by 10 a.m. or the gardens cannot open.
I think the decision was made yesterday that the gardens would open if we could clear paths. So we're just focusing on main in and out roads and pathways for the public and the constabulary. So I think it'll be fine. I think that's probably why they'll want to be here, because they'll want to see that kind of carnage of the aftermath.
One casualty bound to catch the public's eye is a much-loved Chinese white pear.
So yeah, she was 97. It's so old, one of the favourites in the garden. Flowers really well. It's a real shame actually. And there's very little sort of structural damage. It's just literally lifted up in the wind. You know, there was no problems with it. It would have lasted a long time.
With so much to do, there's little time to mourn the losses. Even the big boss, head of tree collections, Kevin, has to chip in.
So this is a rare occasion to do what I originally wanted to do when I was a 16-year-old, and that was to play with chainsaws, tractors and chippers. So it's always quite nice. You have to do well to hold me back.
For Kevin, these storm clouds also have a silver lining.
Most of the trees that we found that have fallen over have generally got an issue. So for this one, this has got a decay organism, so that's affected its structure. This is the ideal thing with storms. We can have a very negative view, but also it does seem to thin out the trees that are weak and ones that have potential to fail in the future.
With all hands on deck, the gardens are made safe and the gates open on schedule. But there are likely many more downed trees off the beaten path.
I think today probably 2 or 3 more just to clear the path, and then multiple more throughout the week. So yeah, it's going to be a busy couple of weeks. It's the fun part of the job though, I find, but it's always sad, yeah, but it's certainly interesting having emergency storm damage. Really, it's different.
Come back as Henk conjures a flight of fancy.
He's sort of flying off into the distance, or swimming really.
Feel the warmth of winter at Wakehurst.
To see all the wonderful colours that are lit by that low winter sun, it just gladdens the heart.
And join the hunt for a new species of orchid.
We don't know exactly how many orchid species there are, but we estimate that there are between 25,000 and 35,000.
"30 miles away from West London, the staff at Wakehurst, Kew's Wild Botanic Garden in Sussex, don't mind the onset of cold weather. In fact, Francis, who looks after the winter garden, positively welcomes it.
To step out on a cold, crisp morning and to see all the wonderful colours that are lit by that low winter sun, it just gladdens the heart. And the great thing about a winter garden is that even on the gloomiest day, plants really stand out. And in some ways, that's even more arresting than when you have a wonderful sun-soaked winter morning like today.
Francis designed the current layout in 2018 to prove that no matter the time of year, plants can provide a joyful sensory experience.
One of the real purposes for a winter garden is to show people that there are merits to plants at winter. Some do flower, some even have a scent, but the great thing about plants is that they have such wonderful colour. And so you can go out into your garden and you can actually see that there is all this wonderful colour to see. One thing that I wanted to include is noise, and not in a distracting sense, but something which is soothing. So I've got some rather tall grasses dotted around the garden, and as you're walking through the winter garden, you've got the wonderful low winter sun, might be giving you a little bit of warmth, but there's also the smells, and then there's that little rustle of grass just as the wind is going through it.
These plants were also chosen for another reason. They're easy to find in garden centres and simple to grow, so anyone can recreate their own winter garden.
So this is a delightful rhododendron from the Isle of Yakushima, just off Japan. This is not normally what you would expect in a winter garden because people associate rhododendrons with spring flowering. But when the breeze is passing through, on the underside, this lovely fawn colour, which is a really nice colour addition.
Naturally, the winter garden is at its best at this time of year. But Francis has made sure the other seasons also get a look in.
So in the winter, marvellous, wonderful colour, scents, and then in the summer I wanted it to be a lush, green, cooling, soothing feeling. But what I wanted in the spring and also in the autumn were just little points of colour that just think, oh, something's going to happen in this garden. In the autumn, you have, again, other plants flowering, and then back into winter again.
The idea for an outdoor winter garden with colourful native plants is relatively new. Until recently, the term referred to places like the Great Palm House at Kew, a tropical glasshouse where visitors could shelter from the cold. The 1980s version of a winter garden was the Princess of Wales Conservatory, which is home to the popular Orchid Festival. Alberto has just 24 hours to finish setting it up, or hundreds of orchid lovers will be left out in the cold.
Do we have another stand, middle size?
We've got big. Oh yeah, we've got two of these.
Yes, one perfect.
I'll give you the nice one.
On the far side of the building, Henk is finishing one of his specialities, animals made of plants.
We have more animals than ever this year, 32, which might become 33 if we're going to do another hummingbird. So, yeah, it's been pretty full on. But having said that, with Alberto's meticulous planning, we have been quite on top of it, and we're nearly done, I think.
Pride of place goes to Costa Rica's most treasured bird, the resplendent quetzal.
So made out of leaves, it's a magnolia leaf that's been dyed. But the quetzal is very distinctive in its sort of like metallic-looking kind of feather. So we wanted to go for a quite shiny look. This is all just from the glasshouse, the eyes and the nose. And he's got some lovely phlebodium, which is a type of fern in his tail. So yeah, he's very cute. So then we go. Oh, I'm forgetting about one of my other favorites. And initially they were sort of meant to sort of be on the floor low, but I was a bit like, they won't be so impressive. I said, can we just hang them in the air over the pond? So basically this sort of window becomes almost like an aquarium. And then when we hung two, and we were like, but there should be another one. So I had to quickly rustle up a third, which I did, and he's sort of flying off into the distance, or swimming really, but yeah, he's for a real sense of movement. I hope my creations end up in a lot of social media. I mean, the whole festival is like one big sort of backdrop for people to take a selfie or to, yeah. I think it will be very popular this year, very colourful again.
This year's theme was chosen to celebrate Kew's extensive scientific partnerships in Costa Rica, including a project studying orchids, led by Oscar.
We don't know exactly how many orchid species there are, but we estimate that there are between 25,000 and 35,000. In a nutshell, I am interested in understanding why there are so many orchid species on Earth. And so what I do is that I try to understand how they relate to each other. And I do that by looking into their DNA, their genetic code.
Oscar is the latest in a long line of orchid hunters who work here. In the 19th and early 20th century, adventurers scoured the world to bring back unusual specimens for the glasshouses and to cultivate for sale to an orchid-obsessed public. Nowadays, Oscar works with local partners, searching for new species in the forests of Central America.
So here we are hunting orchids, because we want to try to find a way, using DNA, to tease them apart, species by species.
So most of my work deals in cloud forest, which is most of the orchid diversity is located. It's just beautiful places. You see huge oak trees, which are like hundreds of years old. And then finding orchids is not difficult there.
One aim of this work is to help protect orchids from threats in the wild.
There is one problem. Let's say that you could say the beauty of the orchids is also its colors, because orchids are one of the most illegally traded plants. You can make actually quite a lot of money by trading orchids. We believe that by teaching people or sharing knowledge to the people about orchid diversity and where they occur, there might be more attempts to preserve the forest.
While Oscar carries on his work to protect tropical forests, the tree gang are still hard at work cleaning up the vast arboretum. 2 weeks after Storm Eunice hit, the gardens are still littered with debris.
Just lots of chipping, lots of carrying wood, and yeah, it's quite a workout, quite exhaustive, but it's different. It's broken up the normal routine quite a bit.
At the moment, our count is roughly about 20 trees actually came down, but the damage is far outreaching that. It's sort of across site. I think a lot of trees have suffered some damage, whether it's small branches to whole limbs.
Deep in the arboretum, the gang have discovered 2 hornbeams in a sad state. During the storm, the champion snapped in 2, crashing into its neighbour. But remarkably, it will live on as a pollard, or shortened stump.
Yeah, it'll become a habitat and it will just become a smaller sort of canopy as the growth starts shooting from the main stem. Then we can just prune that to sort of restrict it getting too big.
Sadly, the second hornbeam is fatally damaged and must come down.
Hopefully we'll get Jamie the apprentice to fell it, get a bit of practice on it. It's the perfect one for him. He's definitely at the point of being able to move on to some of the bigger stuff, so it's a perfect experience, really.
Come back as the public arrive for the Orchid Festival.
So far, so good. Yeah, everybody seems happy.
Meet the tree detective helping police with their inquiries.
And those inquiries can range from stomach contents of animals or people right through to murder weapons.
And delve into the world of deadly mushrooms.
If you eat these accidentally, your liver and kidneys will fail over the course of a week and you will die painfully.
A huge crowd is braving the winter weather at Kew Gardens. It may be cold outside, but soon they'll be basking in the tropical heat of the Princess of Wales Conservatory for the grand opening of the Orchid Festival.
Let's put it this way, just excited, yeah? That's the easiest way to say it.
Everything is set, just the last watering before opening. It was difficult sometimes, but we managed and it looks good. We were closed during the build, so people don't really know much, so it's kind of more secretive. Higher expectation, I guess.
After a year of planning and weeks of frantic work, a troupe of Costa Rican dancers opened the show.
Beautiful. I mean, yeah, it's just flowers are incredible. And all the birds, the monkeys around, looks incredible.
The sloth, I think. I love the sloth. And the monkeys, for me. Naughty monkeys.
If you go inside, it really feels like Costa Rica. It's warm, and it's humidity. It's just like Costa Rica.
It's beautiful. The weather is beautiful. And it's a way to feel part of home, even if you are not in Costa Rica, right? Like, it's really nice, and you can be very proud of your country and feel that you still love it.
So far, so good. Yeah, everybody seems happy. Everybody seems to be enjoying the displays and the conservatory, so that makes us happy. If they're happy, we're happy, yeah. It's good. It's good opening day, and yeah, I'm proud.
In just a few short weeks, Alberto will have to undo all this hard work and return the glasshouse to normal. But behind the scenes at the tropical nursery, Kew's orchid collection keeps Oscar busy all year round.
So this orchid that we see here is one of my favorites. This orchid is pollinated by tiny flies called fungus gnats. The male fly comes here flying thinking that this is a female and tries to copulate with it. This way of pollination, which we call sexual deception, is not unique to orchids. But what is unique is that this orchid manages to deceive completely the male fly so that the male fly completely copulates with the flower. And it has to do it twice, once to take the pollen grains, a second time to put them back in another flower.
Over time, 1,000 different species of orchid have evolved, all to attract sex-hungry fungus gnats. Understanding this process is at the heart of Oscar's work.
At some point, the male flies, they kind of learn that they are being deceived and they will try to avoid flowers that look like this one, then generating selection in different forms. And they have managed to adapt themselves to very specific environments, and that's why there are so many.
In time, Oscar's research may provide insights into the process of evolution itself. He's far from the only one delving into a mysterious world, full of species unknown to science. Out in the Arboretum, fungal collections curator Lee is on a hunt of his own.
Nice fungus.
Every species of fungi here grows naturally. No one cultivates them or even knows how many there are.
So the best thing to do when you're looking for fungi is keep your eyes down, because most of the mushrooms will be growing on the ground or on the lower parts of trees. If you get really close down and have a look at some rotting wood, for instance, you might find something like these. This is a little bright orange coral fungus. And as they grow into little clusters that look like little fingers of coral or stag's antlers, for instance.
Once considered plants, fungi are now classified as their own kingdom of organisms, and they are more closely related to animals than vegetables.
This one is called a bird's nest fungi, a bird's nest fungus. And they form little cups with what look like little eggs in the bottom, like a bird's nest. And you'll find these particularly growing on wood chip.
Appropriately, the team that studies them is based underground at the Fungarium.
A fungarium, it's kind of like a library of mushrooms. So over the past 200 years, scientists who study fungi have brought dried fungal samples here to Kew. And so this is kind of like a repository where anyone around the world can access those specimens and use them for all kinds of different types of research.
This Fungarium is one of the world's oldest and largest, with around 1.3 million dried specimens. One early collector was Sir William Hooker, the first director of the Royal Botanic Gardens.
So, this is Whopper. This is a thing called Fomes fomentarius. It's called a hoof fungus because they look a bit hoof-like in some cases. This one more looks like an elephant's foot, I think, but less hoof, more rhino knuckle. Just about every plant on Earth needs to have a fungal partner to help it survive and thrive. And they form these very complex mutualistic relationships where the fungus supports the plant and the plant supports the fungus. So this is another one of my favourites. I have a lot of favourites. This is a death cap. So this is the thing called Amanita phalloides. And this is one of those fungi that forms those mutualistic relationships with trees. Why I quite like them is this particular species is horribly, horribly toxic. If you eat these accidentally, your liver and kidneys will fail over the course of a week and you will die painfully. This is a cool specimen. This is from the first ever poisoning in Australia by a death cap fungus. Someone picked this thinking it was something edible, ate it and was poisoned and taken to hospital. The good news is they survived. There's actually a note on the label that said the patient survived, they didn't die. Being poisonous isn't very common in fungi. There'll be a lot of fungi which are perfectly edible. There'll be a lot of fungi which you could, in theory, eat and would be harmless but wouldn't necessarily be very nice. But it's advisable not to eat them just in case, because if you get it wrong, it's finito.
Lee is clearly a fun guy, but originally he didn't much like mushrooms.
So I never wanted to come here and work in the Fungarium. There was a restructure in 2014 and I got moved here and didn't want to come. But it's turned out for the best because it's brilliant over here. I love it, and fungi are way better than plants, and I wouldn't have it any other way now.
There are some truly strange and mysterious fungi here. In fact, some are so mysterious, no one knows what they are. Dozens upon dozens of unnamed samples are gathered together on the so-called Wall of Doom.
We have a whole chunk of the collection. We still don't formally know what species they are, so we're still working on trying to identify everything that we have here in the collection.
Trying to classify fungus samples is not the only detective work happening at the Jodrell laboratory. A few floors up, wood expert Peter runs an unusual CSI-style forensic service. The damage from Storm Eunice has given him a chance to expand his research collection.
Hi, Cecily. I'm on the scrounge.
This sadly fell over just behind the yard, and it was growing at a really abnormal slant, but it was beautiful. But yeah, we've cut a strip of this for you.
So can we have a few bits for the lab?
Definitely. I mean, this is yours, and we've actually cut you a few slices of things already. So
Brilliant.
I'll just
That's
get
good.
them.
Great, thanks.
These slices are needed for one of Q's extraordinary secrets, a lab that identifies fragments of wood found at crime scenes. Peter is one of the few people in the world who can say what tree they came from and where it was grown.
Those inquiries can range from stomach contents of animals or people, right through to murder weapons or imported timber, plywood, just about anything that you can't just look at and say what it is.
As well as solving murders, Peter helps to fight illegal logging by determining if a wooden object contains a protected species.
We sometimes receive guitars, and as you can see, this one came off rather badly with its experience with us. There are actually 3 pieces of wood making up the body. We needed to check whether they were all the same or different.
The way he does it is by examining the cellular structure of the wood. In order to do that, curator Izzy must turn the solid piece of evidence into a translucent microscope slide.
So over here you can see we're boiling up some wood, which might seem a bit strange, but we need to soften the wood in order to make very thin sections that we can then mount on slides.
She slices off slivers 0.02 of a millimetre thick, less than the diameter of most human hair.
We can drag the blade across the surface, and we should get these nice, very thin sections. Kind of like how you would see bacon slices or ham slices in a deli counter, except it's much thinner and wood.
Under the microscope, every species of tree reveals its own unique skeletal structure.
I can see quite clearly there are some nice resin canals, and I can see the growth rings and how old the branch is by counting those growth rings.
Then, to make a positive identification, Peter tries to match this pattern against a slide in his extensive reference collection.
These are fireproof cabinets. I like to think that even if the Jodrell lab goes up in smoke and we all perish, the slides will survive the experience. If we have a look at this one, this is the Scots pine, Pinus sylvestris. So this is a bit of trunk wood, which is differently stained from this branch. So I can relate these slides to a tree that's growing at Kew.
Despite having more than 100,000 slides, the collection is still incomplete. But with a raft of samples from the recent storm, Peter now has a few more weapons in his fight against crime.
We may not use them immediately, but maybe in 10, 20, 50 years' time, someone will want to look at that sample.
Come back as rookie Jamie gets the chance to fell the big one.
Hopefully it'll start tipping over and then you're done.
Rosie and Keenan tackle the fungal wall of doom.
There have been packets that I've opened from 1963 that have been sealed since then.
And Kevin hangs up his work boots.
I'm not doing any digging today. I've only got my trainers on. So yeah, I'm very lucky I managed to skive that one today.
As the weather turns colder, most of the outdoor plants in Kew Gardens will go dormant for the winter. But the staff remain hard at work, whatever the weather. Following the destruction of Storm Eunice, one damaged tree still remains standing. Tree gang apprentice Jamie is going to fell it.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's a perfect learning opportunity, perfect training tool for Jamie, really, because it's in the 6 months he's progressed really well, and he's just constantly getting to the point of being able to sort of do larger stuff.
This is Jamie's first large tree felling, and a world away from what he was doing before arriving at Kew.
I did a 3-year degree in music technology and then decided I didn't want to do that anymore. I wanted to work outside, so after doing some various outside jobs for about a year, I applied to this one on a whim and then got it, and now I'm here.
After months of training, under the watchful eye of Tom, it's time to see how much Jamie has learned.
So usually we'll start off with about a 45-degree angle cut in front of the tree, kind of aiming where you want it to fall. And you'll get that all the way through and then take a cut parallel to the ground, so you get a nice little wedge out of that. And then you go around the back of the tree and you take a parallel cut just above where the two cuts meet. And then hopefully it'll start tipping over and then you're done.
Woo! Nice one, Jamie!
Considering I had done nothing like this 6 months ago, it's pretty interesting to be doing this now, yeah.
What do you reckon, Jamie?
And I'm quite happy with it, really.
Yeah, very happy with it. Nice and safely done.
Yeah.
Went where we wanted it to. Everyone's safe.
2 thumbs up.
2 thumbs up. Yeah, nice one.
With the hornbeam out of the way, Kevin's browsing for its replacement in the Arboretum nursery.
It's a nice thing to be involved with now, because you're leaving a legacy through planting trees. Hopefully this will see us out. This should see another 150, 200 years.
The old hornbeam, Carpinus betulus, was a native British species, but in a changing climate, there's no guarantee it would do as well if planted again.
We're looking at trees that can adapt, especially here in London, to a warmer climate and drier climate. So this tree here, this is Carpinus vinaminea. So this goes from the Himalayas all the way through to China. We've got a couple in the collections already, and they're growing very well.
With this new Himalayan hornbeam on board, it's time to find the perfect spot for it to grow over the next few hundred years.
I know it's going to be a bit of a pain for digging, but I think if we look, there shouldn't be too many structural roots out this way.
It's very much an open circle of the canopy up here, isn't there?
With the difficult decisions made, Kevin, as head of tree collections, leaves the spade work to Tom and Cecily.
I'm not doing any digging today. I conveniently forgot my work boots. I've only got my trainers on. So yeah, I'm very lucky I've managed to skive that one today.
Kevin can still play an important part in the process, though.
I'll hold it here then. I'll do the hard bit.
Yeah. Don't get your shoes dirty.
I've not got trainers dirty.
Yeah, it's just really nice to be part of the process now. It's sort of seeing that generation change, and we're able to take part in that and look after them and sort of see trees removed from the collection, add trees to the collection.
The future of the Arboretum secure, the tree gang return to their regular seasonal work. Hidden away from the seasons, Lee continues to explore the mysterious boxes of the fungarium.
So this is one of my favourite specimens. So this is a thing called Ophiocordyceps taylori. So this one came from Australia in about 1876, so it's quite an old specimen. So this here was a caterpillar, but it's become infected by the fungus, which has sort of burrowed its way inside the caterpillar's body, eaten all of its insides, and then when it's finished, it's burst out of its face and produced these quite long, if like mushrooms, that are what will then spread its spores to infect other caterpillars. It's proper alien.
Hoping to find something equally as fascinating, researchers Rosie and Keenan are tackling the Wall of Doom. They have been tasked with trying to identify the contents of as many of these boxes as possible.
Sometimes the handwriting is a really difficult part of this. You have to try and work out what people... So it's Caribbean, Puerto Rico, I think.
Some boxes might have been sitting here for like up to 50 years. There have been packets that I've opened from 1963 that have been sealed since then. That's why it's coined the Wall of Doom.
Tidying up the Wall of Doom is more than just a housekeeping exercise. It's part of a worldwide initiative to create something called the Fungal Tree of Life.
The Fungal Tree of Life project is really exciting and interesting because people use the Tree of Life to study all sorts of things, to find new drugs or understand how things are related to one another.
The contents of these boxes could hold the key to the medicines, foods and fuels of the future. And the painstaking process of examining every box has its own rewards.
You put it under the microscope and it's like a whole new world that no one else can see, it's just you.
Everything they find is added to the Tree of Life and shared with scientists across the world. Is just one part of the amazing work that goes on here every day of the year. And what a year it's been. We've seen the seasons change.
It's getting hotter and hotter as the week goes on.
Do you know, I think I'm on an office job now.
We've enjoyed some classic British plant life.
Our native bluebells create what I think is one of the most intense flowering spectacles in the world.
And seen some less lovely examples.
It smells like feces.
There have been some sad farewells.
She's 97, so old. One of the favourites in the garden. It's a real shame, actually.
Alongside discoveries new to science.
It just went to me like a slap.
We just instantly knew that it was so unusual.
But throughout it all, it's been the people who have kept this amazing institution afloat.
What keeps bringing me back? It's the team efforts here.
It's great fun, but I do feel like someone's going to come and tell me off.
There is no life after Q. I feel like I could stay here for a very long time.
Following in the footsteps of the Harriet tradition, Julian and Pete, our favourite animal doctors, are back bringing laughter and tears. The new series of The Yorkshire Vet starts next Tuesday at 8. Next, a Newton Light, Michael Portillo heads up into the French High Pyrenees where nature takes no prisoners.
Lòng anh vẫn mong tình yêu của em sẽ mãi hạnh phúc trên đời. Người em đã yêu sẽ luôn ở bên và quan tâm em. Giờ anh ở đây dù vẫn nhớ em nhưng chẳng thể nói nên lời. Ngày mưa cứ rơi lạnh cắm trái tim anh người ơi. Biết đâu khi ấy nước mắt làm tim em muộn phiền, để rồi tiếc cho tình yêu ngày xưa đang cạn kiệt. Lòng còn nhớ em vậy nên chẳng yêu thêm người nào. dẫu bao khổ đau anh giấu đi.
Anh phải tránh ánh nắng mặt trời, nhưng hôm nay anh lại bắt gặp nụ cười, 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 nụ cười của em cười, 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 em cười. Đi khám da liễu về, bác sĩ bảo có phải trong tim không nhỉ? Tim không nhỉ? Tim không nhỉ? Tim không nhỉ? Nhỉ, 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 nhỉ. Có phải trong tim không nhỉ? Nhỉ, 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 nhỉ. Có phải trong tim không nhỉ? Nhỉ, 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 nhỉ. Có phải trong tim không nhỉ? Đi khám da liễu về, bác sĩ bảo có phải trong tim không nhỉ? Tim không nhỉ? Tim không nhỉ? Tim không nhỉ? Nhỉ, 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 nhỉ. Có phải trong tim không nhỉ? Đi khám da liễu về, bác sĩ bảo có phải trong tim không nhỉ? Tim không nhỉ?
Part of this, you have to try and work out what people. So it's Caribbean, Puerto Rico, I think.
Some boxes might have been sitting here for like up to 50 years. There have been packets that I've opened from 1963 that have been sealed since then. That's why it's coined the Wall of Doom.
Tidying up the Wall of Doom is more than just a housekeeping exercise. It's part of a worldwide initiative to create something called the Fungal Tree of Life.
The Fungal Tree of Life project is really exciting and interesting because people use the Tree of Life to study all sorts of things, to find new drugs or understand how things are related to one another.
The contents of these boxes could hold the key to the medicines, foods and fuels of the future. And the painstaking process of examining every box has its own rewards.
You put it under the microscope and it's like a whole new world that no one else can see, it's just you.
Everything they find is added to the Tree of Life and shared with scientists across the world. It's just one part of the amazing work that goes on here every day of the year. And what a year it's been. We've seen the seasons change.
It's getting hotter and hotter as the week goes on.
Do you know, I think I'm on an office job now.
We've enjoyed some classic British plant life.
Our native bluebells create what I think is one of the most intense flowering spectacles in the world.
And seen some less lovely examples.
It smells like feces.
There have been some sad farewells.
She's 97, so old. One of the favourites in the garden. It's a real shame, actually.
Alongside discoveries new to science.
It just went to me like a slap.
We just instantly knew that it was so unusual.
But throughout it all, it's been the people who have kept this amazing institution afloat.
What keeps bringing me back? It's the team efforts here.
It's great fun, but I do feel like someone's going to come and tell me off.
There is no life after Q. I feel like I could stay here for a very long time.
Following in the footsteps of the Heriot tradition, Julian and Pete, our favourite animal doctors, are back bringing laughter and tears. The new series of the Yorkshire Vet starts next Tuesday at 8. Next, a Newton Light, Michael Portillo heads up into the French High Pyrenees where nature takes no prisoners.